Wait, bro, I got you. Just press the button, set it down. We'll let you know if anything comes up. That's fucking fantastic. So as a company, I gotta hand it from the driver perspective. Postmates, you guys are doing good. From the consumer perspective.
Am I really that angry? Holy shit. Alright. Let me get this shit going. Warning. Yeah, not worried about that. Let's go to the chat. Let's get my link. Launch. Jesus. Oh yeah, Mace Valor, the fucking pig. It's like none of my friends are on right now. It's very weird feeling. Oh, let's get some bumpin' ass motherfucking tunes in the background, dude. What the fuck? What is going on, everybody? You true American, you hillbilly butt boy. There you go.
Come and fly away with me.
You're awake.
Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me.
What's on the docket tonight? What are we arguing
Come and fly
about?
away with me. Come and fly 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 away with me. Don't you be afraid, everything will change. You and I, jumping off the edge. They say dreamers never die. So come and fly away with me.
Army. You want to talk about the Army? Fine, we can talk about the Army. Hit me. What you got?
We're rising, we're falling, we're making moves. We're climbing, we're soaring.
Holy shit.
Let
me pause this. Holy shit, welcome. I didn't think anyone was going to join.
Hello.
What is going on, my dog?
Well, I ate too much goldfish. I'm fat again.
Are we talking about the nice tasty snack goldfish, or did you dive into a pond and get some fucking goldfish?
No, I'm talking about the nice tasty snack.
Dude, check this out. Fucking MLG status pro life tip. Get yourself some fucking Cheez-Its. Some Cheez-Its, and then put some of those little Jet Puff, the mini Jet Puff marshmallows in that bad boy. I'm telling you, it tastes amazing. Fucking Jet Puff marshmallows and Cheez-Its, for some strange reason, tastes fucking amazing.
Jet Puff marshmallow and cheese. 1.5 star.
Is that a thing? You just Googled it and it popped up?
Yep. No, oh, it says. Oh, I've had it before. Not the Cheez-It combo, but the other junk.
Okay, so you said Army. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about anything.
Well, you prefaced with Army. I could fucking talk about the military out goddamn day.
Let's hear it. I want to join.
Oh, you want? Yeah, that's right. So, what branch? Remember you told me before. Was it Army?
I'll join any of them. I talked to the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, even the Coast Guard. I talked to all of them.
All right. So, Coast Guard is interesting. What? I've known people that have been in the Coast Guard, and they are the unsung heroes. They do a lot. They actually do a lot more than people realize. A lot of it is like coastline protection stuff. So, like, they'll go over to Africa, and they'll protect interests, American interests, from piracy and whatnot, which is actually pretty awesome. They also do like the search and rescue shit on our coastlines as well. Like, they're pretty beefy what they do. So.
Yeah, but there's a few disadvantages.
What's that?
You know how you go to AIT right after your, well, I think it's a disadvantage. Some people may like it. But, you know how you go to AIT right after boot camp?
Yes.
The Coast Guard does not let you pick your job at MEPS. You will go to boot camp, go to your first unit. You have to wait a few months, and then you put your name on a list, and then you got to wait it out. And some of the jobs take years.
Then what the fuck are you doing then? When you get to your unit, are you're just an extra
Well,
body?
you drive. Well, you do what you got to do. You're on a station. I reckon you drive boats and clean and all that. I didn't know about that when I went to the recruiting office, and when I found that out, I said I'll check out the other branches.
Yeah, for that situation, you're not even really knowing what you're getting into. Fuck that, dude.
Right.
Yeah, from that vantage point, it sure as shit is not worth it.
Not
Definitely
to
want to.
You know, people always forget about it, and that pisses me off. I went to Walmart on Memorial Day, and they were flying the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine flag. They weren't flying the Coast Guard flag. So when I went home, I called them. I said, "How come you're not flying them? It's Memorial Day." And she said, "Well, we can't do anything about it now." And I came back a few weeks later, and they were flying it.
So, Avery, what's going up, dog?
All it takes is that phone call to fix anything.
Oh, trust me, I bitch, moan, and complain all the time. I don't know if you were listening the other night, but did you hear about Amazon damaging one of my pots?
Yeah, I was in that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I talked to the representative, the dude from the insurance company, Amazon's insurance company that's taking care of that horse shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's gonna give me a call tomorrow, and we're gonna finalize things. But he offered me $125.
How much were the pots?
It was the total of the monetary value of what was damaged was $75.
$125 for $75. That's a pretty good deal.
I'm a man of principle. Avery, I've been good. How are you? Been busy. So check this out. So I'm thinking $125. Just the physicality of it. Fine, that's all good to go. Fine. But he even prefaced. He said, "I understand that this was like a sentimental belonging of yours because it was, custom made, painted with our child's handprints and stuff. So it's one of those things. It's how do you put a price on?"
Oh my head, Judge. What's that?
He's like, "How do you put a price on that?" And I was like, "Well, that's the thing. It's like the physical aspect of it is one thing. You can replace the physical item, but when you really think about it, that actual physical item that was tied into a memory, that's a whole nother ball game. And so for $125 for that, basically like an extra $50, that's kind of a slap in the face, honestly. for
Well-
everything that happened, at the end of it, for someone that was so careless that did that, and that's a bit much. Like, I'm kind of like, look, man, I got done talking with fake wife about it, and honestly, like, we've thought about it, and it's like, you really can't put a price tag on it, but for everything that happened, I mean, it's ridiculous that a guy from Amazon can do this and, oh, just pay for the broken item when there is so much more involved. That's good to hear, man. I'm doing all right. I had to call off work today because I was awake for like 24 hours. So I was like, all right, I need sleep, so I'm off tomorrow, so I'm pretty good. That's good, man. That's good.
Yeah, if it's got sentimental value and you can't, yeah, I'd be pissed off too, but I'd still take the money. Well, I need the money. So I mean, I'd take it.
Basically, what he was saying, though, is they need to hear a counter offer from me. So that's why they're going to call back tomorrow. So one of the things of why I'm glad I'm streaming tonight is because I kind of wanted to gauge people's opinion. I kind of wanted to know, like, should I just say fuck it and just take the 125? Or should I make a counter offer, and what number should that be?
I think they're already pushing it with the 125. I mean, because those companies. I mean, they always try to fuck over people. I'd just say I'd take the money, because that's probably the best you're gonna get.
All right, let me add to the story. So I was talking with him, and one of the things is he said, yeah, so you need to kind of provide us like an estimate for a repair in your area. Now, all the other places that do ceramics like this, they only do like dinnerware, like plates, coffee mugs. None of them do actual pottery because it's such a large item, and none of their kilns can fit it. So the place that we got it done was in California, which is 5 hours away from here. So if you look at it from this angle, to replace exactly what was broken, we would have to drive 5 miles away, or 5 hours away. My bad. We would have to drive 5 hours away. That's like 280 miles one way. So you're looking at upwards of 600 miles for the whole round trip to replace this one item. So with that information, what do you think then? Does $125, does that really go towards fixing what was broken, or does that barely scratch the surface?
Well, yeah, I'd ask and see if they'll pay for the gas and whatnot. But I mean, if they're not going to, I'd say that's probably the best you're gonna get. If they're not gonna cover that, that's probably the best you'll get. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So I did actually... All right, so Avery brought up a good question. He wants to know about the status of the employee. So here's the thing when it comes to Amazon with their logistics. They have... Basically, they either have Amazon Logistics, where it's in-house, or they do third-party, which is FedEx, USPS, or UPS. Really kind of depends on the seller. But when it's sold by Amazon and shipped by Amazon, it's Amazon Logistics that is the primary person that takes care of it. So... Here's what's going on now. Oh yeah, Avery, trust me, he's going to be disciplined really rather harshly from this. So I asked him because, all right, so I know that Amazon Logistics, some of the people that you have that do deliveries are employees, and then some of the people that you have are independent contractors. Now, I understand that the whole Amazon fleet thing has been popping up and all that jazz. So I was like, I know you can't give me like die-hard, like, to-the-point information, but what can you tell me about this driver? Was it an independent contractor? Was it an employee? Because based upon their employment status, it changes what goes on with the punishment. And because my thing is, like, look, it happened to me, I don't want it to happen to anyone else. There has to be consequences for actions, or the carelessness, the lack thereof, they didn't even have the damn decency to walk up a flight of fucking stairs. I rode around with Amazon Flex, okay? I went up fucking staircase after staircase after staircase, putting packages right where they fucking belong. So I asked her, and she's like, well, actually, the person was actually an employee of Amazon, W-2. So, what did that mean? What's going to come from that? So, I think that knowing he would be disciplined, that adds some value to the 100 they're giving you, to a degree. Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Definitely. They didn't say specifically if he would be terminated or not. But they did say that he will be disciplined. He will be taken care of. Like, she didn't give any, like, set wording on what would happen with that. But what she did say is, once your insurance claim is filed through, the employee has to pay it. So, because he's an employee of Amazon, he then has to, like, and this is what I thought was really fucking bizarre, okay? The reason why companies have liability insurance for property damage and stuff like that is so when situations like this happen, it's taken care of. Now, honestly, I think, now this happened to me and I'm upset, and I'm glad that has to pay Amazon back for the money that Amazon's going to be losing out of this. So I'm glad that that's taking place. But when I look at it from the angle of a business, when I take a look at it from a business, that is the most fucked up thing in the world, okay? Let's say that I own my own business, right, and I have employees. And one of my employees fucks up on a job. Like, let's say it's a handyman job or some shit, and he fucking damages someone's pot at their house when like, he's turning the corner with the ladder and hits their pot and breaks it, right? Me as the business owner, that's my responsibility. My employee fucked up, I'll take care of him, no worries. I'll take care of my client. I'll make sure that, hey, look, I'm sorry that this happened. How much did this cost? All right, we'll pay for that. And based upon the severity of, like, sentimental value, this, that, and the other, I'll throw in some extra on my end. I would do what I could to kind of keep insurance companies out of it. But if it was something that was rather large that you couldn't just talk with the client and try to arrange on your own, then an insurance company would have to get involved. And I wouldn't, ultimately, though, I wouldn't make my employee pay for it. I would discipline my employee. I would give them some corrective training. If it was like a first offense and it was like an accident, and not so much carelessness, but like, it's just like, hey, shit happens. I would kind of like, not a slap on the wrist, but I would definitely make sure that, hey, you got to be more attentive in the future. So that's what I would do with my employee. I wouldn't make my employee pay out of pocket for that. That kind of goes against the whole thing of having liability insurance in the first place, because the insurance company is going to take care of it. Now, the downside is that typically, depending on how many times stuff like this happens, that cost could go up. So I guess to some degree it makes sense with Amazon because their liability insurance is through the roof. Because I was talking to a lady on the phone, time and time again, like multiple times a day, they get complaints like this from all over the country, if not all over the world. Stuff like this is happening all the time. But you got to remember, it's because there's such a large company that things like this are bound to happen. When you're at a certain level and you have this massive reach, of course some shit's gonna fucking pop off. So, but the whole making the employee pay thing, I don't entirely agree with it. I don't entirely think that it's right. Now, am I glad though? Me as a consumer, me as someone that had this event happen to me, does it make me as a consumer feel good? Well, fuck yeah. But you got to remember, I look at things from a business perspective as well. From a business perspective, I think it's rather fucked. It makes sense, though. Amazon's trying to keep its overhead down. And obviously, the more situations like this that happen, the more their premiums for their insurance goes up. So, of course, they have to have some sort of balancing act with it. Anyway, I know I was talking quite a bit. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you're mostly right, but hell, isn't Amazon worth billions of dollars and shit?
Yeah, billions. Yeah. Yes, shitload. They're one of them.
If I was that employee, I'd quit. I'd say, you can kiss my ass. I'm not paying.
No,
quit.
No, they'll make you pay. They'll just take it out of your paycheck.
Well, they can do that, but I'd still quit. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I wouldn't be caught dead working for Amazon, like as an actual employee. Fuck that.
Right.
Hey, you know that the people that work in their warehouses and stuff, they don't even go through a proper hiring. Because Amazon's such a large company, they have a third party hire all of their employees for them. And basically, there's no interview process. You sign up, you're on a waiting list. As long as your background check is good, you're good to go. No prior experience, nothing like that. You don't even need an interview. You just put yourself on the list, they do a background check. Oh, you're good to go. You want to get hired? Okay, cool. And then you go to orientation, and then they tell you which warehouse you're going to be working at. Holy shit, dude. That is I mean, it makes sense with a company that large. You know, it's so much better just to hire people en masse like that. But like, there's like no vetting process or anything for a lot of these employees.
Yeah. Amazon warehouse, is that what you said?
Well, just like Amazon, like, because I've done it before. Back in the day before Flex came around, I flirted with the idea of being an employee for Amazon, working in the warehouse. And I did my own thing. Googled it, went on Amazon's job listing site, typed in my area, and like, okay, cool. Here are the jobs that are available. And, you know, you had to wait for some of them to kind of get going, but took my time, came up, and then we were good to go. Never actually worked with them. There was a scheduling error, and I couldn't make it in time, so I just never went to orientation.
Yeah.
Which is probably for the best.
Yeah, I can't. Maybe I should look into it. I can't. Nobody will hire me.
Oh, been there, dude. Where you been trying like everywhere?
I tried a few grocery stores. Tried Little Caesars, but they wanted me to be the sign guy. You know, the guys who stand out in 100 degrees. Oh, fuck that. And there's a little, you know, a little nursery down the street. I tried that. They didn't even call me back.
Fuckers.
So I pretty much gave up. I mean, I could go to You ever worked at McDonald's before?
Never worked at McDonald's in my life, thank God.
McDonald's, whatever you want to call it.
No, never worked at McDonald's. Never.
Any fast food?
No. Well, I was a cook in the Army, which is, I guess, damn near like fast food. But,
would you ever recommend that job?
being a cook in the Army? Hell yeah.
Seriously?
See, here's the thing. Like, people, like, have watched my videos, and, yeah, it sounded like I was bitching. I'm gonna join the Discord, see if you guys can hear me. Oh, okay, sweet, dude. Let me pop you up. Yeah, go ahead and come on, dude. Yeah, here's the thing. So I bitch, moan, and complain, but I like to cook. I wouldn't want to do it anymore. When I was a kid, I wanted to get my culinary degree. I wanted to be a professional cook. You know, I grew up watching Emeril Lagasse and like all like the big TV stars, like the celebrity chefs, and like that's what I wanted to do. That was my aspiration. I grew up, I just would not stop cooking like all the time. I loved it. Joined the Army because I joined to be a cook because my plan was to go to culinary school. Mm-hmm. So, and I was like, holy shit, this is going to be great, right? This is like my stepping stone. But then actually after being in the Army and cooking for so many fucking people, and it's such a thankless job. There's two jobs in the Army that everyone else treats like shit. That is cooks and military police. Everyone treats those two jobs like complete shit. Military police, no offense if anyone watching is a member of the military police, they're a bunch of fucking assholes. Like, they literally have their heads so far up their fucking ass, it's ridiculous. They think that they're fucking God's gift to the fucking military. You're not. Okay? It's just a job like anyone else. So you're a dreamer. What do you mean, am I a dreamer? Anyway, so I did my time as a cook, and eventually I just didn't want to do it anymore. I no longer wanted to do it from a professional capacity. I would do it from a professional capacity if I owned my own business. I'm God's gift to the military. Yes, you are, Jade. You should definitely join and be a cook. That's what I think. But yeah, I enjoyed being a cook because I met a lot of cool people. We worked really long hours, but hey, you work hard, you party hard, you know what I'm saying? Work hard, play hard. But I ultimately had a good time. I liked it because I was attached to an infantry unit. So even though I was a cook, we trained just like the infantry guys. You know, we got our license. When we deployed, we went out on convoy and shit. Like, it wasn't like we were just stuck in some support unit and never fucking did anything with the bang bangs, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't cook to save my life.
You're a physicist. Nice. We could talk about some cool physics if you like. I'm one of my big things when it comes to physics is time travel. Where I love it so much, the idea of it, but it is, from my point of view and all the calculations I've done in my own head, it's fucking impossible. At least going backwards. There might be some way to it, but come on, you can't change the past. It is what it is. I'm moving to my dorm in 10 days. The religious bitch got salty with me today because... Hold on. Because you said bring a mini fridge? Oh, because you said that you were bringing a mini fridge. Fuck her. Why was she getting salty? What do you mean? Like, what did she say? Like, obviously you need somewhere to store your fucking food, okay? You can't fucking survive off prayers alone. Jesus Christ. Literally. Call her fat. Well, she's not bringing a mini fridge, though. And no, the fat one was the antisocial one for obvious reasons. The religious one was the one that looks like a thought, but she... LOL, really? Really, really?
No, I'm real surprised that you would recommend Cook. I mean, I've read that it's one of the worst jobs in the whole Army. Any branch, really. Is that the only job you wanted to do, or did you look at other ones?
Well, there's a lot of... Whoa, holy shit.
Avery is
There's
a
like
heck
a
of a...
crazy echo right now.
My bad. Sorry.
Oh, who was that? Was that Avery?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
What up, dog? Welcome.
Is there should I push to talk? Is
Yeah,
that
if you
what
could push
the
to
echo
talk,
is?
that'd be great.
Alright. Now, what do you guys want to talk about?
Let me see. So, she's mad well, then you're doing the math wrong. Alright, enlighten me. Enlighten me, because I'm actually not doing any math. This is all just fucking speculation, because unlike you, I'm not a physicist. She's mad because she was already bringing one, but I got it for free, and you saw the big bitch. She'll put a ton of food in there. And there's like 3 people in there. One minifig isn't going to cut it. So, yeah, that's smart. That's actually very smart of you. Echo. Yeah, we've worked on the echo. Avery, yeah, did you have anything to chime in about any of the stuff we've been talking about, dog?
I don't really have any experience with military stuff. But one thing I did actually want to bring up was how you guys briefly mentioned I guess physicists and stuff like that. Have you seen the misconception of there's basically photos of Instagram. It was going around everywhere of it was oh, there's a particle that they're looking at, or an atom or whatever it is that they're looking at, and every time they look at it, it changes.
Oh, so what's that? Heisenberg uncertainty principle. We can calculate either its position or its speed, but we cannot calculate both at the same time. So that's why every time that they would observe the particle, it'd be in a different spot. Okay, cell cause effect has no linearization, so like speaking, you can go effect cause simultaneously. Alright, hold on. So I got someone over on YouTube. Drugs! I got someone over on YouTube. I'm just chilling with my cherry limeade. Cherry limeade? Ew. What the fuck is wrong with you? So basically you're saying that I could easily go back in time and nothing will fuck up because it's not a flow both directions. Well, alright, so No, I'm just talking with someone about time travel. So when it comes to
the guy on YouTube?
Yeah. So when it comes to time is this figment of our imaginations. Really what time is our way to calculate events and distances. That's all time really is. from the human perspective.
Yeah, time is like this weird thing where they're basically theorizing that it's not really like there's no way to actually measure it because it's always happening. Like past, present, future, it's always happening.
Well, they're entwined. They're both linked with one another. You see, time and space are actually one entity instead of two separate entities. It's like the whole curve of space-time and whatnot. So it's like when you put yourself near a large gravity well of sorts, a large source of mass that is bending the very fabric of space. Time itself also has a drastic effect, and that's because the flow of time, or the perception of time and the passage of time, is bent as well.
And also, there's theories on that if we were to go back in time, it wouldn't necessarily ruin everything. It would just you just basically create a different. You're in a different universe at that point because you've changed. Like there's I don't know if you guys seen a movie. I super recommend it. It's called Mr. Nobody. It's kind of really hard to explain, but basically it's like I could go left, I could turn right, or I could go straight, or I could choose absolutely nothing at all. So it's kind of like if you were to time travel, the theory is that you basically went left instead of continuing on with what your universe was happening. So it's kind of like you just create your own kind of a different universe, just a different reality, you know?
So yeah, that's exactly, well, kind of. There's someone that I was talking with earlier on a stream that I did. I'm waiting for them to hit me back. So. One second. Yeah, go ahead and keep talking when y'all. I'm just typing something out.
So the movie Mr. Nobody is basically it's super hard to explain, but it's like basically this guy who's looking at his past. That's what it basically starts off as.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they lead up to what the big conclusion is. But it's basically he's looking at his past and he's looking at all the choices and where his life would have gone. And the movie is kind of just going through each possibility. And it's just like it's a super like mind blowing thing because you know they're talking about time and they're talking about reality and changing it. It's basically kind of like time travel, so it's pretty mind blowing.
So when it comes to time travel, I do love seeing it in film, and sometimes it's done wonderfully with some flaws, and other times it's just completely bonkers. I think the one that I really liked it in was Interstellar. I thought they did time travel relatively appropriate there. I didn't like it in Primer. No, wait, Primer. I loved it in Primer. Primer was like the best when it came to time travel. I meant Project Almanac. I thought it was a fun film. It was fun to watch, but at the end of the day, I thought that in terms of time travel and all that, it was fucking garbage because they're going back in time, changing all this stuff, and there's a scene in the movie where this kid, he wants to kind of go back in time and showcase off that, oh, I'm not an idiot, I'm going to go walk in this class, I'm going to do this stupid speech about this test that I have coming up, and I'm going to totally ace it, and it's going to be great. And he has to go back, he ends up going back like 10, 20 times because he keeps fucking it up. So realistically, when you think about it, if he were to go back to that same moment, because I guess what they're doing is I guess to make some sort of sense of it, when they go back in time, they're time traveling into their younger bodies. But there's also scenes in the movie where they go back and they're not in their younger bodies. It's their past selves are there and their future selves have physically gone back. So their the physical amalgamation of their atoms have gone back in time. So, okay, let's run with that. So it's kind of weird. Like time travel in that movie kind of works how it wants to when it wants to, because if their physical body went back in time, every time he would go back in time to that point in time, all the other instances of him going back in time would also follow suit back in that exact same point in time. That is if to say that it's all in one cohesive universe and it's not splintering off into multiple universes.
You know Private Pile from Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
I just found out the guy who played him was in Law and Order.
Oh, Discord. Hold on. Yeah, keep going. I'm listening, dog.
Huh?
I'm listening.
I just found out that guy who played Robert. Wait, no, that's his Law and Order name. What was his real name? Vincent. I can't pronounce it. The guy who played Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, he's been in all sorts of shit.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in Law and Order. I'm gonna go.
No, the actor his name was Lawrence, I believe, in the movie. But no, he's actually the actor. He's looks way different now, but he's been in a lot of shit. I don't remember his name, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Law and Order, and I can't believe I just found this out now. You know, I look like Private Pile.
Alright, yeah, I'm gonna get you that Discord link in just a second.
Before I had to get glasses, I looked just like him when I shaved my head.
Alright, where is it? Let's go live streaming. There we go. Yeah, I've been killing it on YouTube. And I got a lot of videos that are going to be coming out. So hope y'all get excited for that shit. So there's the Discord link. Either way, you got your answer, and you experienced time travel from moment of conception until death. Okay, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Let's pause that. No, I shouldn't have. Open a new tab. New tab. Let's go back here. I'm going to use this one in the Creator Studio. Hello?
I'm not echoing, am I?
Hello?
Hello?
Yo, what's good?
All right, how about you?
Not bad. Welcome to the show.
I'm learning through the insanity, by the way. So, to correct the guy that I was talking to down in the stream, time is just one event to the next. That's all time is.
Yes.
And mathematically speaking, you can go backwards or forwards. Okay.
Okay.
It's event 3 minus event 2 or minus event 1, and you end up with the exact same equation backwards or forwards. And we don't actually know if we're perceiving time forwards or backwards. It appears that we're perceiving it forwards. We could be perceiving it backwards. That's the biggest struggle with time, is it's very subjective, and we don't know which way it's going. We know that we can slow it down if we speed up the chemical reactions in our brain. We can speed it up with the exact same process, releasing other chemicals into the brain. So we don't know if we're perceiving time correctly. But all time is one event to the next. And
yes,
humans aren't even necessary for that to happen.
All right, so
makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So there's this I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Athena on the interweb. This guy that, so he's this guy, he thinks like he's the smartest person in the world and shit. He's got some sort of cult following and stuff, but basically he has this idea. It's called the Athena theory, the theory of everything from his perspective. And basically what it boils down to for him is biocentrism. I think that's how you say it. But it's the idea that the universe exists because of life. Which,
no.
it's like a nice, cool, philosophical way to look at it, but at the end of the day, the universe exists without the presence of a life form. The physicality of
Well,
it.
the universe appears to be wanting to kill all life. Life is very rare, from what we can tell. So that's kind of, I don't know how to explain. That's kind of that's a very human thing. Everything revolves around us. It's a very old way of thinking.
Well, because human beings in and of themselves are relatively selfish, so we think that everything revolves around us.
Oh, I know. For the longest time, we actually thought that the sun revolved around us. I mean, that's absolutely
my God,
insane.
Dude, I gotta say this right now. I wish to God Themor was here. You were right up my alley, dude, and you are definitely someone I would like to have in my corner. Themor, he's a regular on the show, but he is our resident flat earther conspiracy theorist.
Well, I have a PhD in physics, so I'd be happy to argue with him. I'd even explain to him how to do the tests to prove that the Earth is round.
I'm telling you, if he were on, no matter how many PhDs you have in anything, he'll find a way to prove you wrong. Not to say that he'd be super successful, but he is diehard about what he argues.
All it takes is 2 sticks, a cell phone, and about 5 miles of distance, and you can prove the Earth is round.
Oh,
it's
easily.
not that hard.
So the thing is, like, I even get into arguments with this with my girlfriend, and she's like, "Well, wasn't it Christopher Columbus that discovered that the Earth was round?" Like, no, we've known for fucking a very long time. And then she'll say that well, the Bible said that the Earth is round. It's like, yeah, but we found out before the Bible was even written that the Earth was round. We've known, like, back to the ancient Egyptians, in order for them to build the shit that they built, they had to understand the circumference.
To actually calculate the circumference of the Earth, and they were off, but not off by a lot. And even Protagoras, I mean, he was the first one to actually postulate, I think it was Protagoras that was the first one to postulate that the world was round. So, I mean, flat earthers, I don't argue with them, because in their head, everything's a conspiracy, and we're just trying to fool them. It's like, dude, get in a hot air balloon and go up. You get a different perspective. It's not that hard.
Very, very.
And with science, it's all about what's reproducible. So you can speculate all you want, but if you can't produce results and then reproduce those results, then it doesn't matter.
This is what I've told him time and time again. The simplest way of presenting this argument, and that would be perspective of scale. Because the Earth is so massive and we are so like minuscule in comparison to it, of course from our native eyes, from sea level, it looks fucking flat. You take a fucking ant and you put it on a giant fucking ball, it's gonna think that the realm around it is flat, because just of how it looks from the perspective.
Yep. And I'd love to hear your concept of time. So, because you said you've played with it in your head,
all right, so I follow a lot of those physicists like Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, all them. And so
don't follow Neil. Brian Greene's a great physicist. If you want to follow him, he's written probably some of the most groundbreaking papers on string theory. He's left string theory because it's a dead end. Yeah. But basically, everything that's in pop culture is basically from him. So if you ever want to read up on it, you want to go to his papers. So, but Miku, I'm not a fan of his.
Well, it's more so for me, it's because of the futurism thing. His predictions of the future, which some of them are a bit outlandish, but I wouldn't say that, within the next 100 years that some of them are feasible. His timeline in the next 50 years is a bit much for me.
When it comes to the future.
Huh?
He's very pessimistic when it comes to the future, too, so...
Well, because he's looking at it from the standpoint of the type of civilization on a galactic level. The type 1, type 2, type 3. And then when you kind of put it on that scale, of course, it kind of forces in that pessimism. I do have a I mean, fuck, we went to the goddamn moon, okay? And we went to the moon all because humanity was fighting, okay? So I'm pretty sure that we can fucking push further despite our differences on the planet. So
yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, so that's another thing when it comes like a lot of the conspiracy theories, like oh there's no such thing as a moon landing, and it's like what, like to say that that we did not land on the moon is a slap in the face at the progress that humanity has made.
Well, and it's just a bunch of very ignorant
Perfect.
people who don't understand the science and cannot grasp the amount of science needed to do that. They just can't. I always love whenever they try to bring up the Van Huysen belt. Come on. It's a radiation belt, and we're only in it for a few seconds. It's not going to kill you. No, it'll kill you. Really? We can sit there and do the calculations out. When you turn on your microwave, you actually absorb more radiation from that than going through the belt for less than a second. What is it, like 6.5 seconds is all they're in the belt?
All right, so my, I guess going back to the main question, my perception and my understanding of how time is, kind of always looked at it like a river, right? It's constantly flowing. It's like an arrow. But the thing is, using that analogy, even though I don't know the mathematics on my end, I'm not educated that high in that respect.
Well, time is very simple. It's one of the simplest equations that we have. Time is just T1 plus T2 equals T3. That is the equation. So it's event 1 plus event 2 equals event 3. It's cause and effect. So you have cause 1 plus cause 2 equals cause 3. That's what time is, okay? It's a very simple equation.
No, but going back to the whole thing about the view on time, because it's like a river, right? The river's flowing in one direction. When you go with the current, it's relatively easy, which is why the idea of time traveling to the future would be relatively easy in comparison to going upstream. I don't think it's impossible to time travel backwards. I just think that it has added complications as opposed to just going with the flow and even going far past the current pace and time traveling, like jumping into the future. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. 1 second. So that's one of that's a pop culture view of time. Okay. Time is very, very subjective. Like I said, we don't know which direction we're actually flowing. We could be aging backwards. We would not know because our brains process time in a certain way.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And it definitely fucks up with our perception of the world around us because we are very limited to how we view things. So guys, real quick, you cannot measure progress of humanity when you do not know everyone. Oh God, no, you know what I mean. Jesus.
You can't measure
Avery,
what?
Hillbilly, what are your guys' thoughts on this whole time travel fucking business?
Well, when they invent it, I'm gonna go back in time and bitch smack LBJ.
What?
I'm
Good
gonna go
choice.
back. I'm gonna go back in time and bitch smack Lyndon Johnson.
Why is
one of
that?
our first presidents.
Well, he put the Coast Guard in the Transportation Department. Real fact, look it up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I'm sure there's more, but fuck him.
Fuck him. Fuck Lyndon Baines Johnson. You're fucking funny, bro. What about you, Avery?
Me personally, I don't really, I understand the idea of time traveling, but me personally, even if it was possible, I probably wouldn't want to do it because I don't really exactly see a reason as to why we would go in it. Like, I don't see like a purpose of like traveling in time forward or backwards. I mean, unless you want to be like, oh, well, I want to see what happens in the future and what happens in the past. Like, other than that, I don't really see much of like a point personally.
Well,
But I mean, it's a cool concept.
You really don't want to go that far into the past. I mean, just when it comes to understanding other humans. You go back just 100 years, and you're going to have a hard time understanding the local slang, stuff like that, even if you study up on it. And if you go back into the 1700s, 1600s, you're really going to have a huge language barrier, because English back then was so different that it's basically a foreign language.
Oh, God, yeah.
So going back in time would have its own inherent problems. Even going back, I mean, how old are you?
I'm 20.
Oh, okay. So, Mace, how old are you?
I am 28. You guys go ahead and carry on the conversation. I gotta go grab something out of the freezer. I'll be right back.
Well, I'm 42, and I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and vocabulary from the 80s to now is so vastly different. I was born in the 70s, but I don't remember the 70s. But I remember the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. What is my cat doing? Okay. Sorry. And just our vocabulary has changed so much. And every time a new generation is born, our vocabulary changes. I mean, just look at the internet. You can roll back the internet just 10 years and see vernaculisms that are so different than they are today. Just the slangs online. You know what I mean, Avery? Okay. Am I by myself?
You cut out for a second, but yeah, I mean, I think we could learn a lot, definitely. Like, what we could learn is just imaginable, that or unimaginable. Like, if we even go to the future or go to the past. But I'm just saying, like, me personally.
Time travel in the future, I think, would be a lot harder than going into the past. Technically speaking, you can calculate all the changes that are happening into the past. It's a lot harder to predict what's going to happen in the future. So it's more logical to think that we could time travel into the past and into the future, a great distance than everybody else, other than using speed or gravity. Being able to step outside of those two and time travel 1,000 years into the future, 2,000, 3,000, that would be a lot harder than traveling back 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I would agree.
We can some calculation to predict how all the likely outcomes to bring us to that point. Because we can kind of predict what's been going on for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Because of the randomness of our universe, when we go into the future, you have to take that stuff into account, and we could be wrong. So you could actually die trying to go into the future. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think like logically it would make more sense for us to focus on going backwards, just because we actually know where things are at and stuff like that. So if like we were to try to go into the future and like 1,000 years, and we try to land where, let's say, DC is at, like we want to go see the Capitol, see if that's still a thing or whatever, like, and that's not there, we kind of just like land in the ocean. Like I think we'd going backwards logically would make more sense.
Well, okay, so you got to remember our planet's moving at a substantial speed. Okay, ridiculous speeds. We only look at our local solar system, and we get one calculation. But you can't just take in just like where our solar system is. You also have to take into account where our solar system is within our galaxy, and where our galaxy is within its local set of galaxies. Okay. So you can time travel and end up billions of miles away and dead.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
You know what I mean? Because our galaxy's moving 2 million miles per second. That's how fast our galaxy's moving.
Yeah, we'd have to like compensate for that and like find a calculation to find out where we would be at. Yeah,
Right, and that's a lot easier to do where we've been versus where we will be, because we have to take into account all the gravitational effects that's happening to our galaxy that tugs at our planet and tugs at our star to be able to make those calculations. And stuff changes, and there's stuff that we don't even know everything that's going on in our galaxy. At least with those calculations, you just have to calculate what has already happened, and we can kind of predict where our planet was. So it'd be a lot safer and easier to go into the past than to go into the future.
It's kind of scary to think about, like, just the amount of like
Welcome to my world.
All right, so I've kind of been out of the mix. So let me try and play catch up a little bit. So yeah, that's one thing I've also thought of, is like the way that movies make time travel seem like this frivolous, like easy task or whatever. Like that's something you got to do when you're traveling backwards in time. You also have to have a spatial reference to where you're going to be landing. You know what I mean? Because forward, backwards, even a difference of 5 minutes, the planet is going to be in a completely different location.
Well, not only our planet, our galaxy is going to be in a completely different place too. So, I mean, it's all about in relation to what? It's a big subject, right?
Oh, it's mind-boggling. Okay, so here's the thing for me when it comes to time travel. Of course, I'm fascinated by it, but at the end of the day, would I ever want to time travel? Like, I would time travel into the future, but I couldn't see myself wanting to time travel in the past. And now, trust me, like, there's so many things that, even in my own personal life, I would like to go back and fix. You know, there's family members I would wish to see again, and hopefully that they wouldn't die and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, a lot of those things, if I were to go back and change them, I wouldn't have the same presence that I have today, you know?
Well, I mean, the other problem is you're not the same person that you were back then. Okay? You go back 7 years, and you don't even have the same particles in your body that you had back then.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it can cause a lot of problems. Sorry, hold on.
You see, I'm the opposite. I'd hate to go into the future, and I'd love to go into the past.
Okay.
It's like everyone wants to argue and say, oh, let's go back in time and stop 9/11. Let's go back in time and kill Hitler, right? They're totally ignoring the aftermath of those events, right? The lives that were changed, the lives that were created because those events took place, you know? I know it's bad that you don't want people to die and stuff, but if those people were to live, then that would have massive ramifications for the future.
Yes, it would. Like, there wouldn't be the TSA, which now you have new employment for all these people that are working for the TSA. And strictly speaking, I mean, in the quantum world, where that's where we have the easiest understanding of time. Doing something like that, all you're looking at is where particles are. So it isn't even about humans. So yeah, you change the location of particles if you stop 9/11.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's, in the larger scheme of things, it's kind of ridiculous.
All right, let's also talk about this, okay? So let's say you go back in time, but you're not going back in time to, like, your past self. Like, you're not, like, traveling your mind into your past body. Me, my physical presence as I am right now, is time traveling back in time a week ago. What is happening is the accumulation of my molecules, of my atoms, of every fiber of my being is being transported from point in time A to point in time B, right? How does the universe react to a situation like that, where those molecules, those atoms, they're already in the universe, but now it's essentially a duplication of them being brought into this new space?
Well, kind of. What you were last week to what you are now is completely different.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, not completely. You are different. You are different enough that you actually wouldn't even, mentally, I don't think you'd even recognize yourself if you went back in time. Even just a week. Your mind would not be able to process something like that. I mean, looking in the mirror it screws people up. Imagine looking at somebody that looks exactly like you. You don't have that capability. Our minds are very fragile in that sense. And then trying to change anything, we don't know how the universe would react if we change something. We just don't. We can make slight predictions, but for the most part, we're looking at how one particle versus another particle would react. And that's what we are. It's just a bunch of particles. So, I don't know if you could really do anything to change outcomes. Be an interesting experiment, though.
Okay, let's take a deviation real quick.
Okay.
Huff Propane, he asked me how I felt about affirmative action.
Oh, okay.
What's my view on affirmative action? Affirmative action in and of itself is fucking racist as fuck. Okay? Promoting one group over another, yada, yada, yada. Now, I understand why it's a thing, or at least why it was a thing back when it was first implemented. In 2018,
I think the result, I think what you mean is the results end up being racist. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, let's use that. That's better.
Affirmative action itself is not a racist thing. It's the end result ends up being racist.
How can we realistically take affirmative action and kind of push it the way it's supposed to be by definition, instead of what by and large what the result normally is favoring one race over another? It's like, oh, you're white, therefore we're not going to contribute these advantages to you. There was a podcast I was listening to recently, and it was a financial podcast, whatever, and this girl was talking about working at these tech startups. And the thing with these tech startups is that a lot of them have special programs in place for minorities, people, women, stuff like that, or people of even of different sexual orientations and gender identities and whatever. If you fall into if you're anything other than a white male, there's a benefit for you out there. But if you are a white male, there's no benefit for you with a lot of these tech companies as far as forward progression, networking opportunities, and such like that. And I don't know if you would call that a product of affirmative action or just tech companies trying to increase their internal demographics or whatever the fucking words are. But you know what I mean.
Affirmative action when it first started was to erase the disadvantage of one group over another. That's what it originally ended up starting as. But as we moved through time, we didn't change it when those disadvantages were gone. So now we end up with this one group has more advantage than the other. And I'd say by the late 90s, affirmative action was out of date, because basically black people weren't discriminated against. They actually started getting advantages over white people. And by 2000, between 2000 and 2010, it was totally shifted in one racist direction versus another. And now we're in the where we are today, where it is so out of date that it needs to be thrown out and we need to reevaluate it. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so my thing, it's kind of like even when I went to college, for example, right? There was a lot of advantages if you were not a white male. There was a lot of, like, even clubs at school that you could not be a part of if you were strictly because of being a white male. And those things, I think, are fine. All right, hold on.
I need to go to your channel. Hold on. I want to see what they're talking about. But I will turn this down so we don't echo.
All right, sorry. Continue.
Oh, it was on you actually.
Oh.
You were in the middle of saying something. You were talking about your time in college.
Yeah, it just.
And we can really look at your time in college versus my time in college.
Oh, obviously,
because
it'd be very
there is
different.
a 20-year difference in our times in those institutions. So go ahead.
Well, my thing that really kind of fucked with me a little was the whole. It was probably the biggest class that I saw an issue with was sociology, because sociology, everything the teacher would teach us was painted in such a particular direction that everything was the straight white male is the problem. Everything in that class pinpointed the results of the world being the way it is from a certain lens, that perspective being set in place because of the straight white male. And now you look at me, I'm fucking brown, but everyone in the world thinks that I'm white because of the way I talk, the way I dress. You know, I was raised by 2 white parents, even though my biological mother's from Spain. But yeah, so for me, I guess I identify as white, therefore I fit into that category. And it's like seeing like a lot of the people, at the time they were younger than me because I had just got out of the military. And holy shit, man, that... It was like Billy Madison or some shit. Like, I was like 24 at the time, and all these kids are like 18, 19. And their minds are so fucking different from me being someone that, you know, was part of the military, someone that worked for my money, you know, someone that, you know, worked fucking crazy hours every single day and had a level of work ethic, and I, you know, had a certain perspective in life. And then seeing these kids that just really didn't have the same perspective, which is fine because we all have our own experiences, but the lens of the lens that they look through at the rest of the world was so skewed to everything, you know, not being their fault. Even if it obviously wasn't directly their fault, they would go out of their way to ensure that I'm not at fault for anything and everything is someone else's problem, and I should get compensated or rewarded for nothing at all, or for someone that I feel is
part of
superior.
that problem is from my generation, and that's part of that. The part of the problem comes from my generation. We raised these kids that we wanted them to be safe, and we wanted them to succeed, and we overprotected them, and we tried to protect not just them, we tried to protect their feelings, and it totally backfired in our face, and it's brought us to where we are today, and into the exact same effects that you're talking about. You deserve a trophy, little Timmy, even though you suck.
Yeah,
and it wasn't until my generation got into their 30s and 40s that we realized, holy shit, we're making mistakes here. So, a part of my language, I shouldn't be cussing.
No, I don't give a fucking cuss all you want.
Okay, cool. It wasn't until our kids got into their 20s that we realized the effect on it. Parenting has changed over the last 100 years to such an extent that we're just guessing and we're grasping at things. And I think the 80s and the 90s was this experiment on how to raise our kids. And we thought we might know a better way to do it, which was coddle our kids and actually protect them. And I think that blew up in our face. And we end up with these millennials who really have no sense of what it's like to be somebody else. I mean, my parents, we stressed how it felt to be somebody else. That's how my parents stressed to me. Do you know how that person feels? That's why affirmative action came into place. And that brings it back to the topic that we were talking about. That brings us back to gravity's very much real. Sorry. That's my area of specialty, actually, Peter. And I can talk a lot about gravity if you'd like. But not right now. I'm talking about this. I like Peter, though. I like people who challenge the norm when it comes to physics. But you can't disregard the data. But I think that the grand experiment of the 80s and 90s has really messed up the kids today. I can't say it messed up every kid, but I think it messed up a good majority of them.
Fuck. Give me a second to kind of piece these words together. Okay, so it's kind of like, all right. So millennials kind of been designed in a particular fashion. You know, just because of the parenting strategies over the years, you know, evolving and changing, and you know, the strategies differing. And I can kind of get my mind around it. But the thing that gets me is that millennials, you know, it's the whole thing of like them not wanting to be blamed for anything, and that's, you know, it is, they're coming into like when my generation was becoming into adulthood. Finally, it was right after the whole housing crash back in 2007, 2008, and so we were entering the economy at a very interesting place, and that wasn't our fault. That wasn't. It wasn't. It was the fault of the generations before us, and
it was my generation's fault. To be all honest, I mean, it was my generation's fault. Go on.
Well, some of us had very different advantages over others, right? And I'm not even saying it had anything to do with money. It had to do with the mentality. So I'm a perfect case study for this. So when I graduated high school, I wanted to get into game design. Like, I did want to be a cook, but I was thinking, like, what can I do as a career that I know that I'll have fun with and all this stuff. And so I wanted to do game design. I didn't know shit about game design, okay? But me thinking in my big head, oh, this is what I want to do. And my mom would not sign she wouldn't co-sign for the student loan for me for school or anything like that. And you know, my parents didn't know shit about going to college. You know, my mom owned her own construction company, and my dad was a union guy, working, you know, paving roads and shit. So I had blue collar parents, and they didn't know anything about college. And fuck, man, my high school, they didn't really fucking steer us in any right direction. If you weren't in an AP class or some sort of advanced class, they didn't push you towards college. They kind of just ignored the whole fucking thing. So for me, the best thing that I could have done was join the Army. You know, go straight to work basically, and then go to college later. And that's why I did that. I used it as a stepping stone for success in my life. So, so some kids though, the other advantage that they had is that their parents would co-sign everything for them, or that they, you know, essentially were protected and coddled even when they actually became an adult. And that kind of led a certain mindset over the years. That's why you have people that are my age now that are going to protest, screaming and crying about fucking $15 an hour. Because even with their college education, all they can amount to with their fucking liberal arts degree is flipping burgers.
Well, see, in my generation, like me, I had to work, and I had to bust my butt to get my degree in physics. I had to bust my butt for 8 years to get the PhD. And I've actually, after looking at the generations now, I make my kids go to work. They don't like it, but they're like, well, my friends, their parents pay for it all. I'm like, and look how they're turning out. Get a job. Work for it. And my generation has just basically handed their kids everything and thinking that it's going to make their lives better. And I think it makes it worse. Because, like you said, they're getting handed everything. Yeah, go get a liberal arts degree, which means nothing in today's society.
Well, for me personally, just to butt in real quick, I was born in '97. Again, I'm 20. I have a kid your age. That's crazy. I grew up kind of all right, kind of middle class. I had a house with multiple rooms, you know, and everything was kind of all right. I didn't always get what I wanted for Christmas. Well, to add some, I guess, like, just to add some story to it, like, my family is Puerto Rican and Dominican, so basically what that means is they're really old-fashioned Spanish, or Hispanic, whatever you want to call it. So I was raised off of just basically old-time type thinking, which basically, you know, because to me, when you guys say, like, we work hard to get our stuff, that is not, like, a ridiculous statement to me. That's like, well, yeah, like, I had to work hard to get, like, I didn't get A's in class because, or I didn't get F's in class because I I was just a slacker. Like I got A's because I was told, you know, you do good in school, we'll get you something, or you do good in school, you're gonna basically you do something good, you're gonna get
My
something.
parents taught me that every action has a consequence, and so whenever I went into college, I chose my specialty very carefully. I would never have gotten a liberal arts degree. I would have never have majored in English or anything silly like that, because
What are you gonna
they're
do with
just
it? Like, what's the practicality of it?
right. And whenever I was in school, I went to MIT.
Ooh, nice.
And luckily, a lot of the people that, whenever I first got into college, I majored in mathematics. My associate's degree and my bachelor's degree and my master's degree was all mathematics. Okay, that's the field I went into, and then after I got my master's, I switched over into physics. And best choice I ever made, by the way. But I thought long and hard what my end result I wanted it to be. And with the physics, a PhD in physics, I can really go into a lot of different fields and be okay. With a liberal arts degree, not so much. With a programming degree, not so much. Engineering degree, yeah, I could go into several different fields, but if you looked at then and even now, most people who get those degrees end up not doing it. So, at least with physics, if I didn't pursue something in that field, I had options that a lot of the fields didn't have. Because what physics teaches you is how to think logically, how to really problem solve. I mean, and that's something that's very, very well sought after. And not a lot of fields do that. But it was because my parents, who were working class, I mean, my father was a rancher, my mom was a mechanic. So I wasn't even middle class. I think we were considered poor. And now I'm upper middle class.
Yeah, but like basically like what I was trying to get at is like I actually have a friend who is spoiled like beyond belief in the way that like they're not millionaires, so it's not like, well, no, duh, they're, you know, he's spoiled. No, they're his dad works at a laboring company. His mom, I don't even think she works, and he gets every little thing that he asks for. Everything. He has all of the gaming systems that he wants. He asks for him, he'll get it in like a week or two. And him and his little brother sit around and do absolutely nothing. And I can see like the difference between me and him. Like I can see like for certain issues, like we'll talk about certain social issues that are going on and stuff like that. I can see where his uprising is basically changes or factors into his way of thinking or the way that he would handle certain things. Like kids nowadays, my age, even a little bit, even older, they're not fit for reality I'd say in the United States. Like you go out and you get some like fake degree. I'm just gonna call it a fake degree. You get a degree in some random social science about multiple genders or something like that. Like, and you go out into the world and you're like, oh, why can't I get a job? It's like, well, you can't get a job because you can't do anything with that. Like, you don't have a skill, you don't have experience because you didn't work. Your parents didn't make you work. You sat at home and did nothing for years on end. And then you go to this college and you get this fake degree, and then you expect the world to just change because you're a quote-unquote minority.
You expect a degree and walk out and the world's handed it to you, and that's just not how it works.
Yeah, and to me, it's like... to me, it's like as a millennial, as a kid who's only 20 years old, I see myself as a kid. I'm not one of those guys who's going to be like, I'm definitely more experienced than the average 20-year-old, but like I consider myself a kid, and I see these kids, kids my age, and they're like, they're getting, just to bring it back to, I forgot what you guys called it, but it was basically the system that they put in to basically make minorities have more of a chance.
Affirmative action.
Yeah, like we're seeing it not work, because if you're looking at Harvard and you're looking at all these big institutes, they're actually they're actually making it harder for the quote unquote minority of Asians. They have to score like 140 or something like that points.
First off, Asians are not a minority.
No, not at all. They actually, I think they're like. Go ahead.
They are the majority. There are more Asians on this planet than any other race.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Yeah, and I think they're actually top 3% of what makes up of America. I think like first is obviously Caucasian, second I think is African American. I think, and
in
I
America,
think third
they would be considered a minority, but when you put it in context of the rest of the world, they are the majority.
Yeah, definitely. But like we're seeing it like because in a way they kind of are the minority, because what we're seeing is right now it's like the enemy is a Caucasian man who's straight. Like that's just the enemy of these systems. That's just what it is.
Okay, so I'm Irish. Okay, the Irish people were slaves up until about the 70s, and the Irish people started fighting back. And honestly, they didn't get their freedom until what, the 90s. And I'm looking, whenever I get told you don't know what it's like to be a slave or whatever, I'm like, my dad had to escape Ireland to come to America, or he would have died, because Ireland was at war when he came to America.
Yeah, and I think that like what we're seeing now is the exact like repercussion of how racism was back in the day, where it was a very like social thing. Like racism is a social thing. It was just prejudice and all of the other things that they used to say that.
It was a biological thing. It was how species kept propagating and kept getting bigger.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just specifically, let's just say time frame like the 30s. Like back then, they would, you had the colored section, and then you had the white section. I'm saying like it was a very like a social, racism is a very social thing, and now we're seeing that what's happening now is not this physical. Well, it's getting kind of physical, but it's what we're seeing is this social backlash towards what happened back then, and it's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. As a minority, I'm actually like the smallest minority in America. As a minority, like I see these people and these kids that they're coming after white Caucasian males, like, and to me it's like it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. So I just wanted to like put that in there, because for me, like as like those that generation.
Okay, so it's these millennials that feel guilty about something that happened before they were born. The stuff happened before I was born. I mean, slavery and just the race wars that happened in the 60s. I wasn't even born then.
Sorry
was pretty much all but abolished.
And like another thing that I also don't understand as a millennial, I don't understand where there's certain, you'll see certain people that come out and they're apologizing, they're basically like doing everything that they can to make up for what their grandparents did. It's just I don't understand.
It's ridiculous.
And personally,
I've never been racist, and I'm not going to apologize for something my ancestors didn't even do. I mean, my ancestors were slaves. I'm Irish, and I get expected to apologize to blacks and African Americans because of something somebody else did or some other race did, and it's just like, really? I'm not European. I'm Irish. It's like, yeah, I look white, but I was a slave too, according to their thought. I wasn't a slave. But I'm not going to sit there and take a blood.
Like me personally,
Ireland got freed in my lifetime. Okay? In the 90s. That's not that long ago.
Yeah, that was yesterday. And we're not talking. No one's going to talk about it. No one's going to say anything about it because they're white and because that's just, they're not colored, I guess. Like, it's so weird.
And then the African Americans here in America, you have to go back to the 60s when segregation was a huge issue. And we were already trying to break that up and trying to get them into schools and stuff like that. And by the 70s, they were integrated. And in the 80s, we were busing them around. By the 90s, there was no segregation. So you want all of us who weren't even alive when this stuff was happening to apologize. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and for me personally, like as the smallest minority, I don't expect let's just say I don't expect a white Caucasian manager to hire me more because of my ethnicity.
So what affirmative action was supposed to be is that it was supposed to be even footing. If a black man came up for a promotion with a white man and he had the same qualifications, it was a guarantee that the black man would not suffer because of his race. That's what affirmative action was supposed to be.
No, check this out. When I was in the Army, I remember my E7, Sergeant First Class Perez. In order for him to get his E7 slot, he was in the position of an E7 without the rank or the pay because he was waiting for a promotion slot to open. So as an E6, he waited for I think it was 2.5 years for a slot to open because every time an E7 slot in our MOS would open, he'd meet all the qualifications for it to become a Sergeant First Class, but they wouldn't give it to him because of his race. Because oh, well, there's someone that's of this nationality, so we have to put them ahead of you because, because of races, you have to be a certain race. They have to meet a certain quota for races.
That's not what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to give people who are on equal footing, it was supposed to give them the same advantage. But instead, it took people that were lower than people that were up for it and gave them the advantage. And it lowered the bar for them massively. And that's not what affirmative action was supposed to be. So, yeah, I know what you're saying, totally. But that's not what affirmative action was supposed to be. It was supposed to give equal footing to them. And it did in the 70s, and it did partially in the 80s. By the 90s, it wasn't needed. We were talking in the 90s. I remember in the 90s, we were talking about abolishing affirmative action because it was not needed. And 18 years later, it's really not needed now. Now it's used to give a disadvantage to white people and a huge advantage to everybody else.
Yeah, but a lot of people just ignore that fact of it because they think, even still, oh, it's not enough. Do more.
I go, where's my privilege? I've had people, I've had women that have been promoted over me, African Americans that have been promoted over me, and I'm overly qualified compared to them, and I've seen them get promoted over me. That's ridiculous.
So check this out. When I was,
I just keep going.
When I was living in Orange County, when I was in college, there was a communications. It was a public relations internship. Actually, it was several different internships were taking place at Blizzard, right? Entertainment, the video game company. And me majoring in communications, I wanted to specialize in marketing and public relations. That's what I wanted to do. So I put out my resume, my information, all that stuff to become part of this internship. And it took a while to hear back, and then when I finally heard back, I oh, you're in the next round, and then ultimately I wasn't hired for the PR position, mainly due to my race. And I was able to speak with the HR person. I was like, well, I don't understand this, because of my race thing. Why? I don't get it. And she's like, well, there's a lot of other students in colleges around Orange County, and a lot of them are here on visas from like Asian countries and whatnot. And typically we give them a priority because there's multiple different reasons, but at the end of the day, hiring foreigners, that fills their diversity hire quota or whatever the fuck.
Right. Which is messed up. That is very messed up.
I mean, from a business perspective, I get it. I don't agree with it personally, but I understand the business reason for it, because they are kind of shoehorned into fucking shit like that. So it's I can't be too mad at them, but it is pretty fucked.
If affirmative action was what it was when it started, if it was what it was today, then everything would be fine. Me personally, I thought growing up in the late 90s, I thought we were done with this. I thought it's over, because in Virginia specifically, I believe we had the first biracial couple. I thought we were done with caring about racism, because I mean, when are you going to find someone who's actually racist? It's so hard to find. I thought we were done with this.
Well, you're not going to find a white person that's racist. That you can look at Black Lives Matter, and they are extremely racist.
Yeah, you're definitely nowadays you're going to find it. Yeah,
if they're black. Oh, that's not racism. What? They're saying kill all whiteys. Really?
Kill all fucking whiteys. That's so fucking trash, man.
Yeah.
All right, so check this out. Usually I stream for a bit longer, but I realized there's an invoice from work that needs to be submitted tonight, and okay. I drastically need to fucking find this piece of shit receipt. So as part of the show, thank you guys for being on. I'd like to give you guys closing remarks. So if there's any closing thing you guys would have to say to anybody, have at it.
Avery, you can go first.
Cool. It was awesome, guys. Shout out to the viewers, people who are watching. Insanity, thanks for coming, because you actually taught me a lot and opened my mind when we specifically were talking about the factors that you have to put into time traveling. It was cool, guys.
Well, like I said, it's all about thinking logically. I mean, you got to think this stuff out.
Hey, are you on Discord relatively often?
It's on my phone, so I'm always on.
All right, so here's what I'll do. The next time that we're streaming and we get Themor on, I gotta have you two going at it, man. I need to hear it for myself. Opposite ends of the spectrum completely. I need to see how these two worlds collide.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
All right,
I'm down.
Hey, and True American, fucking Propane. Thanks for coming back.
Okay.
And I like Peter. Peter, I'd like to have a conversation with. So.
All right, you guys have an amazing night. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
See you.
As always, this is your oh so beloved and glorious Mace Valor, signing off.